Hello, and welcome to Women Connected in Wisdom podcast, y'all. I am so excited to be back from vacation, to have a new friend and colleague joining me as my co host, and to talk about financial wellness today. So I think let's jump in and do our introductions and then start chatting. All right, here we go. Hey y'all, I'm Christine Gautreaux. I am a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, coach, best-selling author and publisher, and a dancing social worker who helps you upgrade your self and community care.
Hi guys, I'm Lailona Holloway. I'm an interdisciplinary artist, mental health advocate, and founder of You Are the Creator, working at the intersection of art, community, mental health, and spirituality.
And together we are a podcast rooted in the 8 dimensions of wellness. We like to get together every week with special guests for intentional conversations about how to be wise in business, relationships, and wellness. How do we do it? How are you, Lailona?
I am doing pretty well. We talked about previously, I came back from Interplay in Chicago about a week or so ago. So I'm integrating back into life in Georgia and still using some of those things that I learned from the program of like wisdom for my body, and just excited about what's to come. But also, we're talking about finances right now. Finances are a big thing that can be like a struggle, especially in this economy right now. So that has been on my mind heavy lately.
Right.
But how are you?
Well, I am just so delighted. I'm so delighted you're here. So really transparency with our audience. We just met on Friday. So we met through Interplay. Our long-term listeners are going to know I talk about Interplay a lot. Body Wisdom. It is one of my modalities. It is an organization that I've been a part of for a long time that I adore. And so you just got back from Art and Social Change, which is a 2-week program, immersive program, one of our life practice programs.
Yes.
And I was so delighted to know that there was somebody from my hometown that was going. And so we met on Friday, had coffee, realized we had so much in common. And then when I didn't have a co-host for this Wednesday because they had to cancel, you were like, I'll do it. So thank you.
Of course. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I want our audience to know a little bit about your work and about the You Are the Creator. Will you tell people about that intersection of art and mental health, community, spirituality? Like, what do you like to do?
Yes. So You Are the Creator, I started because I realized that art and mental health really coincided, like neuro arts, of using the arts to help with you mentally and physically, but also realizing that art can be used as a spiritual practice as well. And so the name You Are the Creator comes in many forms of like you are the creator of your art, but you're also the creator of your reality. And so I basically help people through either one-on-one sessions to do that work for themselves, or even where it's maybe not the most creative thing, but business optimization to help people really have that work-life balance. And so you're optimizing not just for money, but for actually living a life that you enjoy, and also doing events. So I've done a couple of events where they're neuro arts events where I'll sing and people will meditate, will collage, do photography. And so I just really like that intersection between all of these different things, and just realizing nothing is really separate. Everything's interconnected. So I feel like that's the main point of all of it and just bringing people together. There's a mental health epidemic right now and loneliness epidemic. So community is so important. So I just want to continue to create community and events consistently and continue to make art with other people too.
Heck yes. Y'all stay
Mhm.
tuned because there's going to be an event coming to Duluth, Georgia.
Yes, yes.
I don't know if you can see my hand. It's still got paint on it from
Mhm.
I was doing some gel printing with my group out in Lawrenceville today,
Mm.
and we had this giant canvas that I have been saving. Like I just didn't know exactly what I was going to use it for, and I've been working with folks in outpatient mental health, so I love that
Mhm.
connection that we have with our work. And we're having a big show coming up in September, which I will put the link to in our show notes. But today we were doing gel printing with stencils of butterflies, and we're using this giant canvas to put together a community art piece. Because I've
Mhm.
really been playing with what can we create together that we can't create alone, like that
I love
collaborative
that.
art. And that
Mhm.
I believe we're all creative and all creators. Often people say, oh, I'm not creative, I'm not. I'm like, oh, you just haven't had somebody tease it out of you yet.
Mhm. Yeah.
But the power of building community through art, and the power of us exploring ourselves, like, what do we like, what do we not like, what we did poetry last week, and one of my people in my class was like, I don't like this at all. And I was like, it's okay. It's okay
Mhm.
not to like it. Like, you're not meant to like everything. And
Yeah.
she didn't really like the metaphors. She didn't like the way I had set it up and what I was asking for. She's like, it doesn't make sense to me. I was like, fair, right?
At least she's
And
honest.
right. Well, also, it was just, I took it as a big win because sometimes we don't know what we like or don't like until we try it, right?
Mhm.
And it's okay to say, oh, I don't like that, right? I think especially as women, right, or people as identify as women, because often in the South, and maybe not with your generation, Lailona, but in this, like my generation, we were taught to be nice, and we were taught to not really say if we disagreed with something or didn't like
Mm.
something. And so that Southern nice girl thing would happen, and it's like, whew, I've been done with that for years. But I still
Yeah.
think some people often, that's our first inclination, is to try to people please, right?
Yeah. I think it's
So,
still ingrained in women nowadays, like no matter sort of what the age, but it's slowly leaving. But I think it's just like ingrained in our society to sort of be like
right,
nice, soft
right.
spoken. But yeah.
Well, and when you see, I mean, on the show before, we've talked about abuse, we've talked about domestic violence. When you see the statistics about the things, I mean, some of it's straight up survival still, right? With
Mm.
what's going on, and so I think that there's, it's so multi-layered, right? It is.
Mhm.
I think it's important for us to be talking about it with each other, and to say it's, hey, I'm recovering from that. I am totally a recovering people pleaser, and
Yeah.
hey, let's do this. Well, today we are talking about financial wellness. What do you think
Yes.
about reading the definition so we can bring our guest up?
Yes, I can do that. So, financial wellness is an intentional approach to your relationship with money as a tool. It includes stability with current finances, increasing positive financial behaviors like budgeting, reducing debt, saving, and investing. Financial wellness incorporates knowledge and skills that helps to change behavior, reduce financial stress, and creation of a strategic financial plan to reach desired financial goals.
Mm. How does that land with you?
It feels like I was meant to co-host this episode because I genuinely was just like I'm so grateful for all the opportunities I have. Um and I will continue to be grateful, but I think especially in this economy, I know I want to ask our expert when she does come
Mhm.
in, how does one sort of build that financial wellness and financial stability in treacherous economic times,
Right.
where everyone is sort of dealing with that? So I'm really curious to see what she might say about something like that.
Right. Yeah. It makes you think about it, because what I have a curiosity about too is, like, some of this to me makes sense, right? The positive budgeting and things like that. But when everything goes up at the same time, right? And it's like, oh, and right before the show we were all talking about, subscriptions and things like that, like the things that for me trip me up sometimes. I'll be like, wait, where's my extra money? And then I'm like, oh, it's coming out automatically for something I didn't know I signed up for. And then I feel like a grandma, which I'm not yet, but and I know a lot of grandmas that are tech savvy, so y'all don't be mad at me if you heard that. But it is there are so many things, and as women, when we're juggling, and a lot of our listeners are entrepreneurs and they're moms, and they're taking care of family members, or both, or taking care of their world as activists, like there's just always things swirling. And what are some tools and skills that we need to make it easier for us, I think, is what I have a curiosity about. So
Yeah.
I want to read our guest bio and get her up here so we can get some of these questions answered. I'm very excited. Rhea Lana Riner is a visionary entrepreneur, CEO, and founder of Rhea Lana's Children's Consignments Events, a thriving national franchising company with 120 locations across 26 states. What began as a clothing swap in her living room, I love this part of the story and I can't wait to ask her more. What began as a clothing swap in her living room in 1997 for young families has now grown into a multi-million-dollar enterprise, all while keeping the values of motherhood, family, and community at its core. Rhea Lana has empowered thousands of moms by providing affordable, high quality children's merchandise. Today, her company provides families with excellent products at reasonable prices, fostering a community driven marketplace that serves both parents and their children. But for Rhea Lana, it was never about business. It's about helping moms navigate the many hats they wear. She is proud to offer women a flexible path to entrepreneurship through consignment events and franchising. As a mentor and leader, she has helped countless franchise owners mature personally, professionally, spiritually, and emotionally into successful business and community leaders. Rhea Lana lives in Conway, Arkansas with her college sweetheart, Dave, who she's been married to for over 35 years. When she's not building teams or helping women grow, she is spending time with her family. She has 3 adult children and is Nona. I don't know if it's Nona or Nana. We'll ask her when she gets
Nona,
up
I
here.
think.
Nona to 5 beautiful grandchildren. Woohoo, y'all. Help us welcome to the stage Rhea Lana Riner.
Hi.
Hi, Christine and Lailona. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, Nona or Nana, because that's an important distinction.
It's actually Nana because it kind of
Nana?
rhymes with Rhea Lana.
Okay. Okay. Oh my gosh. And probably they could say it any way they wanted to and you would answer.
That is for sure.
Right?
If they just smile at me, it melts my heart. So,
Right? Oh my gosh. Well, I want to start with your origin story because I love that you say it started as a clothing swap in your house. Will you tell us about this?
sure. I started quite a while ago. It was in the early 90s, Christine. I was a stay at home mom with 3 small children under the age of about 5 at the time. My husband had taken a move from the corporate career. He was an engineer. We were living in Texas and we moved back to Arkansas, and he went into nonprofit work, and which is something we really wanted him to do that, but it definitely affected our family budget. And so we went from that engineering salary to a nonprofit salary. And I have a college degree, but it's not really useful like a nurse or a teacher where you could just, go get a job. And so I really had always liked secondhand clothes, and I really always loved kind of that thrill of the hunt of finding a great brand for an affordable price. Then if you take care of it, you can sell it for almost the same price you bought it. So I just had always loved that. And then really needed to shop that way, honestly, for myself and my kids, because even on an engineer salary, I mean, money was tight. It's just tight as you're having a family, and it's expensive. And so the reality of my husband's career change, though, really began to settle in, and I was realizing that I really just didn't have money. We had a paycheck, and I was thankful for it, but it really wasn't lasting until the next paycheck. And so I really was in this place of need of, I need to think about creatively, what can I do? That, you know, and again, because it wasn't like a nurse or something where you could just go get a job. I had to also think about, if I were to put my kids in daycare and all those costs, you know, that you are always offsetting. Am I home taking care of the kids, or am I working, you know? So anyway, for me, it started off, first of all, I started teaching tennis lessons. And so I tried that for a while. And so, but while I was teaching tennis lessons, I also then started to do this little clothing swap in my living room. And I don't have a business degree. I didn't even know I liked business. I really just kind of thought it was going to be a ministry, quite honestly, of friends helping friends, buying and selling each other's things. And so we had a very modest house, and we moved our furniture into our bedroom, and I set up 3 racks of clothes in my living room. I rented them. And I also invited about 100 people, hoping that some people would let me sell their things, because I had to figure out I needed things to sell, you know, to have this consignment event. And so thankfully, I remembered that 11 families let me sell their items for them. So they were my first 11 consigners, is what they were called. And so this was in 1997. And I've always been a perfectionist, I'm definitely an introverted perfectionist. And I really thought if I made it perfect enough, you know, people would come. Well, what I realized is you have to also invite people, you have to market, you have to be a little bit extroverted. So the very first sale I had was actually a failure, if I have to be honest. It was beautiful, but really nobody came. And so that was one of those early lessons of, okay, I'm going to have to grow, and I'm going to have to do some uncomfortable things but I've always kind of felt this desperateness to succeed. And so it forced me. So I called all 11 consigners, asked them, could I please keep your things for one more week? And I promise I'm going to figure out how to get shoppers here. And so so we did it one more week, and thankfully shoppers came, and I was thrilled that I think I made $200 that first time. And I was just thrilled. So that's how it got started. I'll add this part on, is the very second sale, and they've always been pop-up events, Christine. That wasn't really meant to, I never wanted to have a store. I really just wanted to do these events because it fit with my lifestyle. And I felt like it fit with other moms too. They could gear up, you know, and just focus on an event. So we had another event 6 months later, and my husband looked at me and he said, Rhea Lana, you should computerize this. Now, that doesn't mean anything now, because we all carry computers around in our hands with our phones, right? But if in 1997, moms like me did not have computers in their house. And so we computerized it all. And that's really what gave us our niche of where we are today, is really making consignment affordable and high end, and a real service to families.
Rhea Lana, I love that story. And let me apologize, because I was saying your name wrong earlier. I was saying Rhea instead of Rhea. So it's
a common mistake, Christine. It's okay.
Oh, and I knew it, and I wrote myself notes, and I didn't read my own writing, so I apologize. But there's so many things I love about that story. The first is, I just want to applaud you for not giving up when it didn't work the first time, because when I do coaching and I talk to folks, you know, sometimes, especially women, feel like they have to get it perfect and right the first time. And when we're doing something new, it's very often that we fail, or that we're uncomfortable. And you could have stopped. Like, you literally could have said, this isn't going to work. And you have transformed that into did you say multi-million-dollar business? Is that what I read? Okay. All right, so I'm going to ask questions about that in a moment, but I want to see if Lailona, I'm going to screw up. I'm done saying names.
It's okay.
Lailona.
It's okay.
Oh my gosh, y'all! I've been on vacation. I was working and then I was on vacation, so I've been off the air for 3 weeks. So y'all have patience with me as my podcasting comes back. Do you have any questions for her from listening to that intro story?
Yes, first of all, I like how you said that you were desperate, and that actually helped push you. Because I think sometimes for me, or just people thinking about feeling desperate, or sort of a negative emotion, people are like, oh, you can't grow with that or anything. But it's you used it in your favor. And so I really enjoy that. But also just you saying that even on an engineer's salary, you guys were struggling because you had kids. And I don't know what the economy was back then, but for sure right now, the economy is not great. It's not great. It's hard to get a job. It's hard to do these things. And so people often joke about that this is the perfect time to follow your dreams because you have no other choice. But I think that I have a question of, even in times like this, how do you continuously stay motivated and positive and optimistic about maybe doing your own venture when things like the news and things like that are sort of showing you the opposite?
That's a really great question, Lailona, because it can look on the outside that where I sit is a glamorous place to sit, and the reality is I enjoy what I do, but there are challenges every day, and every day I feel like, whew, I don't know if I can solve the next challenge, and so it can be discouraging, but the reality is there's so much to celebrate and feel joyful about. Sometimes I think it really is just a decision that we have to make. And I think sometimes we need to get off our phone and all the negative news out there, because, it's so much fills our feed, and that if that's what's filling our heart and our soul, then that's how we're going to be wired. And so I do really believe that sometimes our emotions are just a choice, that we're going to choose to focus on all the things we have to be grateful for. I think for me, back in those days, I really did want to change the trajectory of my family if I could. I wanted my kids to be able to take soccer lessons, and I wanted to be able to, and it started out very small. I never had grandiose plans to build a business. I just wanted to pay for them to go to summer camp, and I wanted to pay for them to take a dance class. And so it was just, what are the skills and passions that I have to maybe make a little money? And I think if we start there, everybody just starts there. What are some skills and passions that I can make, that it's a service that I can provide to my circle, and just kind of start there, as far as just making a little money. But you do have to keep going, and you have to have a realistic view of who you are and what you can do. But I think you asked a lot of questions there, but I do think, as far as just how we feel, I tell myself a lot, I kind of have to choose to find joy in the journey. I can choose to be discouraged, or I can choose to find joy, and I can celebrate all the small things along the way. And I think that really helps our mindset if we can do that on a daily basis.
Oh, I love that.
Thank
I
you.
love
That
that.
was great.
The other thing I heard in there is incremental steps. It's one of our tools in Interplay about like breaking it down in incremental steps. And when I heard you say that about having a goal of, for you, it was your kids and paying for soccer, or paying for maybe not starting with, oh, I want to build a multi-million-dollar business. I love having that incremental step. And I think about starting where you are, right? And you said your passion was already thrifting and doing these clothing and things like that. So you had that, but also you had 3 kids at the time. So 3 kids, that's a lot of clothes.
And they were all close together, they were, our kids were all, again, I had 3 of them in the 5 years. So they were, there's a lot going on.
Right? Right? Okay, so I heard you at the very beginning say one of the reasons that the first one didn't go was because of marketing. So, we have a lot of listeners that have side hustles, or business owners, or entrepreneurs. So I want to know your tips for marketing. Like, what did you do that made it work? And what is something that you still, all these years later, hold on to and say, this is the trick to marketing?
Well, marketing is a lot of trial and error. I do think it is. There is a lot of trial and error, but I think that ultimately you do have to be able to know your customer. You've got to sit in the seat of your customer. And so I do think it helps that I was that mom, and I still remember what it was like to be struggling to buy groceries and struggling to pay the bills, and sad that I couldn't send my kids to the nice summer camp, and that we didn't, I just still remember the struggle. And like Lailona, something that you said early on is people do feel a lot of isolation these days. And I remember feeling it back then. I think if you can feel the things of your customer, then it helps you to connect with them in your marketing. And so it's the thing that still drives me to create community, to create value. And so that's the first thing, is you have to sit in the seat of your customer. Like, if you don't know how they're feeling, if you don't know their struggles, all your marketing efforts will just go to waste. So I do think that's the first thing. And then all the methods, I've now been doing it for 30 years and I've seen so many things. When I started, there wasn't even social media. Like, the young people who work for me, they can't even believe that, because they've grown up with social media. But I remember when I built this business on trifold black and white brochures and some articles in the newspaper, and maybe a billboard or two. And I still believe in many of those things. Like, I still believe that it is huge risk to only focus on digital marketing, because things break, things don't work, things go down. I remember a time when a Facebook went down. You can't put all your eggs in one basket. So the other part of marketing that I believe is you do have to do what we call grassroots. It's kind of our little army going out there along with digital. You got to do it all and become an expert at what connects with your market, and you have to measure it. There is an ROI, and it isn't always a science, but you do need to know if your marketing is working, because I've always said marketing is a little bit like shopping. If you're not careful, you can go, I'm going to buy a little bit of that. I'm going to a little bit, oh, that looks really pretty. And pretty soon you've spent all your money. And I will give this one example, since I know we're talking about financial health and wellness. In those early years, I was teaching tennis lessons, and I was also starting this little consignment business. And so and part of it's because my kids wanted to play tennis, and I couldn't afford private lessons for them. And so again, that motivated me to figure out. I became a tennis pro, and because someone told me I could. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll try that. And I was making $30 an hour, and I was hauling tennis balls out in the blazing heat in Arkansas. But it was a way that I could make money, and so But anyway, so one summer I ran this junior tennis camp all summer. Okay. And I hired instructors, and I bought equipment, and I marketed, and I was took my kids out there so they could learn. And I'm embarrassed to say this now, but I got to the end of the summer and I paid all the instructors. I realized about all the equipment that I that I had bought. And then I did my financials, and y'all, I made $0, like zero money. And I cried. I mean, like, I'd spent all summer working my tail off. Now, look, if I were to think back, like, Rhea Lana, you should have figured that out way before the end of the summer. Like, you should have been, if you had been doing your financials all along, you would have known, way before. But it was a mistake.
Be gentle with yourself, Mama. You were raising 3 kids and running a huge event all at the same time.
Well, and that's kind of to the point of, I didn't know what I didn't know. And so it was a huge learning experience, and I sure never made that mistake again. And that's just part of the process. You kind of have to learn as you go. And so anyway.
Unless you sign up to be one of your people, because I heard in that intro that you do mentoring, right? So how does it work for women who want to sign up and be part of your franchise? Yeah. How does that work?
Yeah. So I love franchising. Franchising is like doing business in community. And I always say there's a lot of things I don't know, but I know children's consignment events. We know it well. And so we love mentoring women in this. And so basically a woman would buy one of our franchises. All that information's on our website. But you buy a franchise, and then you pay a royalty based on the sales of your event. And with that, you get incredible support, incredible marketing, incredible training. And really it's a pretty much a turnkey. But I will say this, the responsibility is still on that person to run their business. Like, I thought early on that I could help everyone be successful. I actually had a goal that no franchise would ever fail. And I tried that. I mean, I worked so hard, but then I realized that ultimately I can only want it so bad for you. Ultimately that woman has to want to be successful so that she learns it. So we never promise the sky. We're never going to promise the sky. There's lots of opportunity, and we love it, but it ultimately does depend on the woman who owns the franchise.
I love that. And I flashed rhealana.com across for those that are just listening. It'll be in our show notes. So don't worry, you can find it by going to womenconnectedinwisdompodcast.com. All our show notes will be there. How did you, I want to back up because how did you go from, hey, this business is working to me to I want a franchise? Because that seems so brave and something I have no idea about. And I think a lot of our listeners may not. Do you know, Lailona, do you know about franchising?
I do not. I do.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad, Rhea, that you're here to tell us about it so we can learn something about it today.
Franchising is awesome for women. I just think because it is like doing business in community. And I do think women, we like that. You know, we want to do with friendships. And so where it came from, I started when I go back to those early years, to be honest, I was hoping that my husband would go back to his corporate job eventually with all the benefits and all the things, because he worked for a big oil company. But he really loved what he was doing and he loved who he was working with. And so and meanwhile, my event was growing. It was growing. And at one point, he told me that he wanted to continue in nonprofit work. And I just knew I was thinking long-term about trying to send kids to college and retirement. And it just really, it felt like I needed to think through something because, it just still, even though I was beginning to make money, I was really pouring a lot of the money back into the business in order for it to grow. That's just how business works. You don't just all of a sudden make all this money, right? You got to balance your expenses and all of that. But so that's when I began to think about franchising. And it was really more about just long-term for our family. And I did have someone, I think it was actually my daughter's soccer coach at the time that said, you should think about franchising. So, it was beginning to get in my head, but we didn't have any money to hire a consultant or any of that. And we sure didn't have money to lose. And nobody was giving us any money. Like I was going to have to figure out how to build this thing from scratch, which is what we've always done. And so what I did is I actually bought a couple of franchising books. One of them is called Franchising for Dummies. And I would take my kids to the community pool with my yellow highlighter. And while the kids swam, I just would sit there with my highlighter. And I would, of course, it felt overwhelming. But again, I just sort of took it one step at a time and just figured out if we could do this thing. And I would say a step before that is my husband had continued to develop some software for our event. And so we had also began to license software to other children's consignment events across the country. It was kind of a new growing industry. So we did know that there was a small industry out there. It's hard to believe. It was kind of before the internet. The internet was just starting, which is hard to believe. But we knew that there was a need for consignment events to be run at a higher quality. They just weren't super nice or respected back then, but we did know that there was a market. And I think we offered it for $100. We didn't know if it was very valuable, but what we began to realize is I had high standards with how I wanted to run consignment events, and our software supported that. Whereas a lot of these other sales, they didn't really have high standards. And we just decided we didn't want to do that. If we were going to do software, we wanted to also run the events. I hope that makes sense. But we decided to package the whole thing and put it into one model and then see if we could help someone do it all under our brand. And that way we could support the software and the systems. So anyway, and I think we offered the first franchises first my sister, I will say this, I expanded to Little Rock. That was kind of my first step of from Conway to, is this model duplicatable? Is this something that's duplicatable? So that was my first step. And my kids had played sports in Little Rock. So that was kind of a second. I was there a lot. I had friends there. And so then once we did that, my younger sister is 10 years younger than me, and she had helped me and she was interested. And I thought, well, if anybody can do this, my little sister can. I bossed her around her whole life. So I'm pretty sure she'll do what I tell her. And she's amazing. And she lives in Northwest Arkansas. And so she was then our test franchise. And so once I saw that, it gave us the confidence and then actually my sister-in-law and then we offered it in Arkansas first, and Arkansas sold out quickly. So just those little, again, it goes back to just incremental steps that gave us some confidence that, this is something that people like, and we see that it's working. And so let's keep offering it. But again, we never borrowed money. We just never felt the confidence. We weren't ready to take that kind of risk as a family. So we just always did it financially with what we could afford. And I will say that I worked a lot. I never want to glamorize entrepreneurship because it is crazy hard work. And in those early days, I was working 60, 80, 100-hour weeks, wearing lots of hats. So I don't do that anymore. I don't want to, and I don't want anybody who works for me to do that. But that's what it took in those early years to kind of get the franchising piece off the ground.
I just, first of all, just everything you said was just amazing, really. But just you hearing franchising, then getting a franchising for dummies book, then going to the pool, highlighting, and actually like taking in the information, like you didn't know what it, like how to do it at first, but you just kept going. And that's just inspirational because I'm going to try to form this into a good question. But basically, it's like someone might have like all of these ideas. And like, for example, you had the tennis at first and the consignment, but how do you know? Like, how do you just stick with one idea for that long without being like, okay, is this like, how do you know when to quit versus is this something I just need to push past? Like, is this actually a good idea? I need to just push past because there was times where you said like 60 to 100 hours a week. And it's like, were you ever thinking, is this a good idea? And like, but obviously it turned out to be a great idea. But how did you just keep pushing?
Yeah, there was many times I've asked myself, is this a great idea? Yeah, I do remember the time when I was doing both tennis and the consignment, and just the momentum was shifting from tennis. Like my kids didn't want to play. I wasn't really making a lot of money for the work putting into it, where the consignment, I was beginning to make a little more money, and it felt like this just fits more with my life, with my passion, with my family. So that was the first decision so I put the tennis away so that I could put more energy and brain power into the consignment and figure that out. So that was first. And, in those early years, another part of my story, which people can dig into, but I also ended up fighting the government for almost 10 years. But I had only been franchising for about 4 years. I was barely above a stay-at-home mom. And so talk about, wanting to quit. But I just really felt like that I just could tell it was meeting a need for women. At that point, I don't know how many franchise owners we had, not that many, but I could tell that women were getting this, and I could tell families appreciated it. And I still recognized the faces of families when they would come to our events. And so I knew it was worth fighting for. And so I do think sometimes in your heart, it's more of a gut feeling. And I think also for me, Lailona, it's never been about making a lot of money or being wealthy. It really hasn't. Of course, I want to help my family, and I needed to help support my family. But I think sometimes people go into entrepreneurism or business about, get rich quick and all this stuff. And that's just never been my goal or my passion. Yes, I want to support my family and I want to provide opportunities. But I think if your goals are in the right spot and your values are in the right place, it does help you to overcome challenges more realistically. And so, because but I also remember one time when Dave and I early on had to have my husband had to have a tough conversation, because this is kind of taking it back a little bit, but I was a stay-at-home mom. And so when all of a sudden mom is running events and for 3 weeks, I mean, I'm telling you, there were no groceries in the house. There was no laundry done. I missed kids' birthday parties. I mean, I was pretty proud of the mom that I was, I did things pretty type A, but then you add on event and business, and I was no longer type A. I was struggling and failing. And so, we had to have some hard conversations of what can this look like for our family, and how can this, and I think those are some of those incremental decisions where either, you and whoever your support base is goes, okay, we're going to dig in and figure this out together because we think, or we're like, let's move on. This isn't the one. Let's go. Let's try something else.
I love that checking in with yourself, checking in with your support system, really seeing, right? And I firmly believe in what you said, Rhea Lana, about that passion and that it aligns with what you're doing, because not every day is going to be roses and sunshine. Like, there are going to be some stormy days, and what gives you the oomph to keep going, right?
And on that point, I do think for me, I really was motivated a lot by wanting to be a good role model for my kids. I've got 2 daughters and a son. And I really wanted them to know that their mom could work hard, their mom could solve problems, their mom just wasn't going to lay on the floor and cry every time a hard thing came along, even though I wanted to, and I'm sure I cried some days, but I really took pride in wanting to be a good role model for my kids, because I wanted my kids to see that money doesn't grow on trees. It takes hard work to survive in life. And that, didn't want to sacrifice my family for sure, but it takes hard work to get anywhere in life. And I really did want to model that for my kids. And that's always been a real motivating thing for me.
You said that about overnight success. I think I heard you say overnight success, or like, thinking you're going to make all this money at first. And we've talked about it on the show before in regards to most people I know that have overnight success have been doing the work for 10 to 20 years.
Right.
Like, they have put in the work and the incremental steps, and then, through commitment, really, that it starts to bloom. And sometimes with the internet, they get help and, get more traction than others, but often it is that laying that foundation and the groundwork of how to do this. Well,
and you're building. I was going to
ahead.
quickly say, and you're building trust in a brand. I remember for
Right.
years, I just felt like I was building trust. Every event that we put on, it was like building this bank account of hope, wanting my customers to trust me, the experience that they were going to get. And I do think that's true with every brand. A brand has to build trust over the years, and that's what then I think ultimately can hopefully bring success.
And they can lose it overnight, as we've seen this week in the golf world. Like, you have to know your customers and know your people and know what's going on. And yeah. Well, Rhea Lana, I can only imagine how proud your kids and grandkids are of you. And what do they think? Because, sometimes when you were the one that didn't get mom at the birthday party, or like, do they love your business, or are they like, no, that's mom's thing?
They're so supportive, I will say. And I love having adult kids because, and I've got one daughter who actually owns 2 franchises. So we're involved in the business. I've got 2 other kids that are not involved, but they are my closest advisors. They have given me some great advice as I navigate different things. So they're very supportive, but they've kind of found their own things and don't want to do this. But I have definitely, they've watched me weather a lot of storms, and they get to see a side of me that a lot of people don't, because, how it is with your family. You trust your family.
Right.
And so I think I know they're proud of me. They're probably sometimes tired of it all, but it does take us on family vacation. So they're also very grateful. I mean, they truly are grateful for and I do think because they've watched how hard we've worked and they do understand the value of money and financials, they are very grateful for the things that it has provided for our family.
Well, that's a beautiful story. Like, I love this. I have a question about the pop-up aspect of it, because before we got on air, you found out where we lived. We're in Duluth, Georgia, north of Atlanta, and you're like, wait, we have a franchise there. Yeah. So how does that work?
Yes, it's a pop-up model, and I've always loved it. And in the early years, people would say, Rhea Lana, when are you going to get serious and open a store? And never. A store was never the goal or the end game. Like, I didn't want to be tied to a storefront. And so we love event models. I think it fits into the rhythm of families and of moms, where they can twice a year clean out the clutter. They can sell their items, and then for families who are shopping, they can buy everything they need for their kids for the whole season. So we love it. Yes, and we have several events in the Atlanta area. We love serving Atlanta area families. And the neat thing about our events, they do start out like babies. They're small, but then they grow to these massive events, like fill up a department store, like a Macy's or a Nordstrom's or even a Walmart. And it's beautifully organized, and we call it a marketplace for families. But yes, and I actually still run our flagship event in Conway, Arkansas. And so in only about 2.5 weeks, We set up, and about 2,500 families bring in all their beautiful things. They enter them online. And then we have over 250,000 items that we set up. And then about in a few days, and then we have 10,000 people that come and shop. When it's done, we love paying checks to all these consigners because we're selling their things, and then we clean up and then we're done. So we love the pop-up event aspect, and but we do love smooth operations, and we just want people to have a great experience, like not have to wait in long lines, but just to really have a great experience.
That's amazing.
Right? Do you have a question? Because I have a question.
Oh, no, I just needed to say it was amazing.
It's so 250,000 items. How long does it take you to set that up?
I will tell you, I have an amazing team. Like, I can't take much of the credit because I have an incredible team. But we honestly, we go in and we set up all the racks and all of our tables and all of our supplies in about 2 days. And then maybe in 4 days, all these families bring in all of it is set up in less than 5 days. It's beautiful. We love it. I mean, like, it's beautiful. Like, all the fire trucks are lined up in a row and all the baby swings are together. Like, we love making it look beautiful. And I think it goes back to wanting a mom to feel valued and special as she's coming and shopping secondhand. Like, we don't want families to feel like this is a secondhand experience. You know what I mean? We want them to feel like this is special. We brought you the very best things. Now come enjoy it.
And you teach people how to do that, how to
Yes.
set it up and run it smoothly. That is such a cool model.
It's hard work. We're never going to say it's not hard work. I mean, you're on your feet and but if you're someone that wants to work hard and wants to serve families and serve your family, then it's really a great business.
Well, and I really also see, because how it's compact, and if you have 1 or 2 events a year, how it's doable. Like, sometimes families don't have support for kids for long periods of time, but if you had support for that week or that 2 weeks, like, I could see how it really fits with young families and young moms.
Well, and some women still have a full-time job, and so they're building, and it is, because our model is a part-time model, so it is, it's a challenge, but they can still do their full-time job as they're doing this on the side. A lot of them ultimately hope to step out of that full-time job as their franchise business grows. But for most of our franchise owners, they're doing the dance. Now, some are stay-at-home moms, but more and more, most people do have to work. And so they're trying to combine their full-time job with this side gig as they're building it. And so we want to make that doable for them.
Well, and I could see that's where the collaboration and the needing the support and having experts that have done it. So you're not having to highlight by the pool. Like, you really already have the manual, which I love that image. Rhea Lana, have you written a book about this? Like, have you?
I haven't yet, Christine. It is, I have several people asking me, and I have taken stabs at it. And so, it is I hope I get to do it at some point.
Okay.
So far I just can't carve out the time to.
Okay.
But I hope
All
to.
right. As somebody who's been a writing coach before, put it in your calendar, 15 minutes a day.
Okay.
And
thanks,
even
Coach.
if you sit there and you just look at the blank page, just get it in the habit that you can write a book in 15 minutes a day. And right, I know, look at that.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Can you tell that how much that stresses me?
Yeah, I saw that stress on your face. But here's what I want you to know: you have an incredible story. Like, and I don't know about you, Lailona, but I'm over here like just inspired. Like, if I would have met you when I had my young kids, I would be like, oh, I want to do that. Right. My kids are now grown, and I'm like, nope, I don't need baby clothes. But just the power of empowering women, and the whole idea of fitting it into our lifestyles, I think, is beautiful. I just want to lift you up for that work, because I think that is just really remarkable.
Well, thank you.
So.
Thank you.
All right, y'all, we're coming to about that time where, like, we're doing all this work, we're pouring out into our communities, into our families, into our friends in the world. But what are we doing for ourselves this week around wisdom in action, around financial wellness? So, Rhea Lana, what are you doing for financial wellness this week?
This time of year is when I really am trying to dig into my finances. I feel for us, the rhythm of January through August, I have my head down doing a lot of work, honestly.
Mhm.
But this time of year, I like to really analyze both my family finances and my business finances. I am looking through the credit card statements. What is excessive? What can I prune? What can I get rid of? Do I know where my money is going?
Mhm.
I run the kind of business that I need to know where every dollar is going, and in our family, same thing. So I'm really looking at the details, trying to get rid of things I don't need that are excess, and be smart. You have to be smart about your money, or you can end up spending stuff you don't need to.
Right. Right. All right. What you doing, friend? What's your wisdom in action?
For me, specifically financially,
Yeah, financial wellness.
I would say probably just looking at my finances and seeing, like, sort of similar to what Rhea Lana was saying, like, what is coming out, what is coming in, and just really sitting with that, but also celebrating where I used to be financially versus now.
Mhm.
Like, so I think celebrating, even though I'm not
Right.
rich yet, um, celebrating that I have come a long way in the last couple
Mm,
years.
Right. I
that's
love that.
great.
Affirming
Hmm.
yourself. Mine is going to be cancel some subscriptions because there were some things that popped up last time. And I'm like, wait, what am I paying for? And the month goes by really quick. So that is my this week. It is on my to-do list already. Like cancel a couple subscriptions that snuck in there. Cause I don't know about y'all, but I don't know how some of them end up on there. I'm like, did I punch that? Like what did I do? Or I'll think, oh, I'm gonna use that. And then I don't use it. And I have made a promise to myself that you can try it, but if you don't if you're being really honest with myself, and if I am not using it, I cancel it. So because when I do my audits of my finances, I'm like, whew, yeah, there's yeah. So I was talking to somebody today earlier, and they were talking about leaks or something like that, and that's what I feel like some of those subscriptions are,
Mm.
just little leaks, and it's like they're not huge, but if you got a lot of leaks, that's a lot. So
Well, and just you can't hardly watch a TV show without having to sign up for a subscription, or you've got a fitness subscription, or that's just it's so easy for money to leak these days, easier
right.
than it used to be. So
Oh,
it's definitely that's a good word
that's
for it.
That's some truth.
Mhm.
Well, Rhea Lana, thank you so much for coming today and sharing with our audience your expertise and about the power of franchising. And we will put your website on our show notes so people can reach out to you. Is there anything else? Like, what is the best way for them to reach you? And is there anything else you want our audience to know before we say goodbye?
Well, I would just, the way to reach us is fine, realana.com, or we're all over social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok now. So we're easy to find. And I have a great team, and we would love to answer any questions anyone might have. And actually, we are offering a free 30-minute consult. If you want to just talk about your personal journey, it doesn't even have to be about franchising. We'd be happy to offer that. But I would just want to encourage every woman listening to just have confidence in herself. I think I know that I struggled with that a lot and even still do. And just to be confident in yourself that you are uniquely made with special gifting, special passions, and just to try something new and figure out what you really enjoy doing, and just develop those passions, and it'll take you to some place you never knew. And so I just appreciate the work that you ladies are doing. Your message is wonderful. So it's been an honor to be here today.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
love lifting up women's voices and the work you're doing in the world. And it was a joy to meet you and talk to you and just spread what you're I love it. I'm like you yeah, another lifetime. This one that I'm past that, but it's so inspiring to me. I'm like, oh, who do I know that I could recommend this for?
Yeah.
So thank you very much for being here. And we are
Yeah.
just grateful to be connected.
Thank
Same
you.
pleasure. Thank you.
Bye.
So inspiring,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, that was I'm very inspired. I'm just like, I need to pick something and stick with it and just keep going.
Right? The consistency, the helping other people, the being grounded in purpose. Like I love all of that.
Yeah.
I love, I don't know. I'm thinking about, because I know you and I are both artists and creatives and we do a lot of things. So it's a different, it's a different industry. But like how can we apply those same principles to what we're doing?
To art.
Right?
Yeah, because I even thought, like, when she was talking about how she stays motivated is seeing how she's helping other people. And also like sitting in the seat of your customer. And so I'm like, for myself as an artist, dealing with mental health stuff, dealing with financial stuff, like what could I do to help artists in that regard? And so I think about it sometimes and I'm like, some artists don't really have that much money. So I'm like thinking like, what is something that they would actually spend money on? But it's just difficult because you want to give back, but you also need to make money. So it's like that give and take.
Right. But finding that beautiful balance and that in the service. I've always been service orientated as a social worker. So I love that mindset too. Like what would serve your friends or your family or your community. I think that's a beautiful way to look at it. Oh, so good. Lailona, do you have anything you want to shout out before we go towards close? Like, is there anything you have coming up that you want people to know about or to stay tuned?
I would just say stay tuned to the event that we will be doing together. And also to check out my website portfolio, LailonaHolloway.com, because I act, paint, sing, etc. So if you're looking for any of those types of things, I would love to be a part of it.
We will put that in the show notes so y'all can connect. I love that very much. All right, y'all, we are going to wrap episode 233 and so grateful to be back with y'all after a break. And we have a lot of really cool guests and co-hosts lined up there this fall. So I hope that you will join us next Wednesday and we'll be live at 5:00 Eastern time. And until then, be well, be wise, and be whole.
Bye.